I'm Vanessa. In this presentation we're going to be looking at techniques for analysing a case study. Case studies are often used in assignments at university because they provide students with real-world contexts in which to apply the theory they've covered in their coursework. An instruction for an assignment involving a case study might look something like the one on the screen. You have your title there, Case Study and Management Report. The lecturer wants the format to be an inductive style business report. Then your instruction. Read the case study on moondust designs provided in your course handbook. In this assignment, you are required to take on the role of a management consultant who has been hired by the owner of the organization to formulate a report recommending how to deal with the problems currently being experienced. For your reading for this assignment, you are required to read your prescribed book and another 5 academic sources, including at least 1 book and 1 journal article. With an assignment like this, your lecturer can assess whether you can apply certain essential skills, whether you can analyze the real-world situation of an organization in order to identify problems in the organization, determine the underlying causes of these problems, and suggest strategies for solving these problems by applying the theory you've learnt in the course and in your readings. So the case study assignment provides you with an opportunity to apply your theoretical knowledge to a real-world situation and to produce a written report on the situation. What we're going to focus on in this presentation is the process of analysing a case study, moondust designs, and making notes to use for a written presentation on the case. But before we have a look at the case study, I'd like to talk about integrating theory into the assignment. A case study will often be given in the second part of the semester so that students have covered an extensive amount of theory that can be applied to the case. The theory will help you to identify issues and problems in an organization. It will help you to understand and explain the underlying causes of the problems. It will also help you to identify possible solutions for the problems and justify your choice of these solutions for the organization. Sandra is a clothing designer and manufacturer. In her company Moondust Designs, she employs a staff of 12 people who have been trained by her, a cutter, 10 machinists to sew her garments, and a supervisor. She is into her second year of a 5-year lease on her factory premises. For the past 6 months, Sandra has been experiencing problems with the quality of the garments produced by her machinists. There's been a high level of stock returns, and last week one of her major clients threatened to cancel their order for the new season. Although the supervisor is tasked with maintaining the quality of the garments in the production process, he is forced to spend a large portion of his day dealing with 2 major problems in the workplace: preventing damage to expensive equipment through careless use, and the increasing incidence of careless wastage of materials. At a staff meeting to address the problem 2 weeks ago, it was clear that morale was low among the machinists. Several of the machinists voiced their dissatisfaction with the fact that although they were all paid the same wage, some of the machinists were producing garments at a slower rate. They also voiced their anger about the low value of the general incentive bonus paid out to machinists 3 months ago. Now we're going to be looking at 4 steps in analysing a case study like this one. Step 1. Summarize the case. Step 2. Identify symptoms and underlying causes. Step 3. Brainstorm possible solutions. And step 4. Evaluate your possible solutions. Now, as a first step in taking notes on the case, it's helpful to summarize the important facts of the case for yourself. Do this in a format that's easy for you to work from. I'm going to show you 2 methods for doing this. The first involves representing the important facts in a list format. Each of the points on the list is an important factor in the case and will need to be considered. First, what is the nature of the organization's business? Clothing design and manufacture. Then, how is the organization staffed? The owner, the designer, employs 1 cutter, 10 machinists, and 1 supervisor. Then, very importantly, who trains the staff? Staff training can often be the source of problems. Next, I've taken out information on the premises of the company, noting that the owner is only into the second year of a 5-year leasing contract. Then I've noted the problems identified in the case. Problems with quality of garments produced, resulting in stock returns and threats of cancelled orders. I've also noted that one of the causes identified is that the supervisor, who should be keeping an eye on the quality of the work produced, is actually kept busy preventing damage to equipment and wastage of materials. Finally, I've noted the problem of low morale among one section of the staff, the machinists, who have expressed unhappiness with the wage and incentive structures. So these are the facts that I have to work with, presented here in the form of a list. Another way that I can represent these facts for myself is in the form of a graphic organizer, like a mind map. A mind map is a useful way of representing the facts of the case for yourself as you begin to consider the problems and their possible solutions. Once you've noted the important facts of the case, you're ready for step 2 in the analysis process, moving beyond the symptoms of the problems to identifying the underlying causes with the help of expert opinion from your academic sources. I'm going to use another graphic organizer to make my notes on this. On the screen you'll see a table with 4 columns. In the first column, I'm going to put the symptoms of the problems, how the problems show or reveal themselves. If we look back at our list of the facts of the case, we have several problems which have been identified. I'm going to have a look at a few of these interrelated problems here. Low morale among machinists, damage to equipment, and wastage of materials. These are the things that have been identified in the case study already, some of the symptoms of the organization's problems. In the second column of my table, I'll identify the surface causes of these symptoms. These are causes that are already identified in the case study. The cause of the low morale among machinists is already identified in the case as unhappiness with the wage and incentive structure of the organization. According to the case study, the problem of damage to equipment is caused by careless use of the equipment, and the wastage of materials is caused by careless use of the materials. Now, if we're going to help the organization solve these problems with the machinists, we need to identify why they are being careless with the equipment and the materials. We need to identify the underlying causes of these problems. To do this, we need to consult the opinion of the experts in the field, our academic sources. Now, in preparing for lectures leading up to the assignment, you will have read sections of your prescribed book, The First Source of Theory. If you haven't read the relevant sections in the prescribed text, do so before you start analyzing the case study. And make sure you go over your lecture notes carefully as well. The starting point for referring to relevant theory is your prescribed book and your lecture notes. Bring this knowledge with you to your first reading of the case study. As you work through the case study, you will identify areas of theory in which you need to do further reading in academic books and journals. When you are taking notes on the problems identified in the case study organization and the causes of these problems, make sure you keep a detailed record of where you find the theoretical information. Now let's go back to the table of notes on the problems of moon dust designs again. I've added another 2 columns to the table. In addition to notes on symptoms and surface causes of the problems, you need notes on the underlying causes and the theory which supports what you say about them. From reading our academic sources, we might come to the conclusion that the problem of the machinist's unhappiness with the wage and incentive structure of the organization stems from feelings of injustice. And our source might go on to explain which strategies can be used to address these feelings of injustice. Make sure that during the note-taking process you include the page numbers where the relevant information is located, so that you can find them again easily when you start drafting your assignment. As regards careless use of machinery by machinists, we might identify 2 possible causes for this problem. First, inadequate training in the use of the equipment. And second, a lack of motivation to look after the equipment because the machinists don't own the equipment or any part of the production process. And a similar argument can be presented about the machinist's wastage of materials. Again, make sure you use theory to support your claims and record where you found the theory. When you've identified the possible underlying causes of problems in the organization, you are ready for step 3 in the analysis, brainstorming a list of possible solutions. In working out possible solutions for the problems, make sure that you use theory from your course and reference materials. Now let's brainstorm possible solutions for the problems of moon dust designs. Some of the many possibilities might include setting up a training program for the machinists to show them how to operate the machinery and work with the materials. Maybe the owner could also set up a share scheme incentive for the machinists. Or perhaps the problem can be solved by not having the machinists at all. Perhaps the owner should outsource the production process to another company in New Zealand, or maybe even another country with cheaper labour. Another possible solution lies in keeping the machinists and subcontracting the production process to them. There is no one correct answer to the problems of the organisation, but what is important is that the solutions you propose are suitable for the organisation and the environment in which it operates. So, when you've come up with a whole lot of possible solutions, you need to evaluate them in the light of the realities of the organization's situation. In looking at solutions for any organization, you will need to consider factors such as, firstly, the resources of the company. For example, the financial resources. How much will the organization need to spend in implementing your solutions? How much do they have? Then the human resources. Are the staff capable of carrying out your proposed solutions? Would they need further training? What about the existing physical resources of the organization? Do they need more or maybe less physical space for your solutions? Do they need to buy equipment or maybe sell existing equipment? For example, with moon dust designs, we need to consider that the owner of the company is only into the second year of a 5-year lease agreement. Also, the company has expensive existing machinery, which would have to be sold at a loss if the production process were to be given to another company. Another factor to consider is the time required for your solutions. How long will they take to implement? How urgently are the solutions required? If we look at the case of moon dust designs, the company has very little time to solve its problems. There has already been the threat of a cancelled order by a major client, something which would be disastrous for such a small organization. And with any case study, don't forget about the realities of the operating environment of the organization. For example, how would consumers in New Zealand feel about a clothing designer whose clothes are manufactured in a country with cheap, possibly exploited labour? This might damage the designer's reputation and put her out of business. So there are a number of considerations for us as we evaluate possible solutions to the problems of an organization like Moon Dust Designs. In evaluating our possible solutions, we need to ask ourselves the following questions. What would be the advantages and possible disadvantages of the solutions? What consequences would these solutions have for the company in the short term and in the long term? Which key concepts and theories will we need to support our suggestions? To make notes for yourself on this, it's helpful to use a graphic organizer again. So, we've looked at 4 steps in analysing a case study. Summarize the case, identify symptoms and underlying causes, brainstorm possible solutions, and evaluate solutions. And finally, the theory covered in your coursework and your readings must be integrated throughout the process of case study analysis. And remember, all theory and any ideas belonging to someone else must be acknowledged and properly referenced. Good luck with your case studies. Until next time.